But first of all, we just want to say that we really appreciate this time of the service that Brother Absher's given to us so that we can share this experience with you, because if it had not been for many of you, this trip would not have happened. So you're very much a part of it, and I hope we can tell you that in words. Before we start, I just want us to start off with prayer, and then we'll get right into our presentation. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you so much for all your blessings, and we especially thank you for this opportunity that this group had to go on the mission trip. Lord, we thank you for providing everything we needed financially and material-wise and emotionally and energy-wise and everything else, Lord, and we give you all the honor for it. And Lord, we just pray that our words today would touch people's hearts, that they would be used by the Holy Spirit to give people what they need, whether it's encouragement or challenge or just a word of thanks. And Lord, again, I just thank you for being here with us, and just be with us as we share. In Jesus' name I pray, amen. Well, this process, and this was a process, started, I would say, really back in 2012. It probably started a long time before that in many of our hearts, but in 2012, several of us in our Sunday school class started talking about our church doing a mission trip. And as we talked about it, we naturally thought about Danny Lopez, because many of our youth and adults too knew Danny because he had worked in our state. So, and he had been here to our church, and he had shared about his ministry in Guatemala. So Jonathan Hopkins got in touch with Danny and started getting some real information, like what dates were available. And we got dates, and we started announcing the trip. And I'd say at our first meeting, we probably had about 6 people. Some of those people are here, some of those people are not here, and we have lots of extras. But at that first meeting, we were excited because we had some possible dates, and we started talking about the real possibility of going. So we settled on spring break of 2014, and that's when it happened. But one special thing that also happened at that meeting was that Brother Sterling Walls met with us. And Brother Sterling said, I fully support mission trips. He said, I can't go physically myself right now. He said, but I want to go ahead and commit that I will sponsor someone. And so he just provided so much encouragement in that first, financial donation there, that we knew we were, God showed us that first step. So then everything just kept proceeding from there, and little by little, this group was formed, and I believe that it was formed, it was the right set of people at the right time for the right purpose. So I thank them for all being a part of it, and people kept just kind of adding on as it went along, and then some people got taken off because Jonathan had to leave, and so, but God put the group together. So let me just see if I can quickly tell you thank you for so many of the things that you did to make our whole congregation a part of this trip. We did a few fundraisers, which y'all supported. We sold some centennial pictures. We did a Christmas marketplace booth. We did a parents' night out, and we made a little bit of money off those. But the real support just came from y'all, because we started getting money. Vera would say, "Hey, we got another donation," and then we got another donation and another donation. And as it turned out, in the end, we individually barely had to pay anything for the trip. Plus, y'all also paid for the materials to build a house. And we did 2 houses, actually, I know. But anyway, and Bible school materials. So let me just see if I can say thank you. Thank you if you donated money so very, very much, because we couldn't do a trip. You can't travel without money, plane tickets and living expenses and food and all that. Thank you so much for all those amazing things that just showed up every week. When we put that box out, every week, more things would appear in that box. We had clothes, we had shoes, we had everything from clothes and shoes to, those are coming next. Ink cartridges for their printers. We had so many things. And then individuals started thinking about some really nice additions. Doug worked it out to get us, was it 24? 24 Spanish Bibles. And you think, that's nice, that's good. But oh no, that was amazing, because so many people there they don't have their own Bible. And I hope somebody has that in their part to tell, because that was really amazing. We had everything. Hannah Hooper sent bilingual children's Bibles. Vera found us some bilingual children's storybooks, and you saw in those pictures the children reading those storybooks a lot. And it would have been really funny if you could have heard us trying to read those to the children. It was really funny, but we did our best. We also had the children's group. Wesley and Christy and Amber and Mark helped, maybe some other people, helped the children make little tortugas. We also took a picture of our children's group, and they all signed it, and we were able to present those to the children in Guatemala, which was really sweet, from our children to those children. Plus, some adults even wanted them too, but they liked everything we brought. More donations. We had, Vera did so many things. She made us costumes to take that helped us with our Vacation Bible School. The youth helped put together little hygiene packs, which included things like washcloth, soap, toothbrush, and toothpaste. And Emily's mom, Amy, was able to get toothbrushes and toothpaste from her employer to add to that, which was really great. And so the donations were amazing. So if you were a part of any of those things, thank you so much. A group of ladies also sat down with us on a Wednesday night and helped us put together our crafts for Vacation Bible School. And that was wonderful, because it would have taken us forever to do it on our own. There's so many things. Teresa did so many things to help us through her work as church secretary and just as the wife and mother of of people going. And I want to say this: if you or a family member or a friend or a coworker of any of us, and you helped fill in the gaps at home or at church or at work, I know my friend at daycare did. Thank you so much, because we couldn't have done what we did if all that hadn't been done. So thank you. And I'm sure I've forgotten some people, but if I have, just know that God's going to bless you for it more than me saying it out loud. So, okay. So I think that's all the thank yous. And I just want to really quick say that you've got to ask, if you're interested, about us actually getting there, because the first part of this trip, travel's always interesting. And so if you want to know how we got 2 girls from a softball tournament and traded those 2 girls with 2 other teenagers who were going to spend spring break in Georgia, and how the Hoopers drove the Dabbs car, and we traded cars with the Dabbs in Atlanta, and how 8 of us carried 12 people's luggage from the parking lot to the airport, and how we had 2 flight delays but lost no luggage and no people and got to Guatemala and back. Just ask us later, and we'll tell you all about that, okay? All right, I got to read one scripture. I want to read this because Amber and I were talking about this in our Bible study yesterday, and this is a lot of how I feel about this trip. It's from James chapter 2, starting with verse 14. What good is it, my brothers, if someone says he has faith but does not have works? Can that faith save him? If a brother or sister is poorly clothed and lacking in daily food, and one of you says to them, go in peace, be warmed and filled, without giving them the things needed for the body, what good is that? So also faith itself, if it does not have works, is dead. And your gifts and all were works that prove your faith in us. And now I'm going to hand it over to Emily.
Okay. I want to talk about how, when we first got to the Guatemalan airport, we met up with Danny, and there was, a bunch of people, Guatemalan people outside holding up signs, with their names on them. And we met up with Danny and met these 2 girls from Illinois, and they were on the trip with us. And it was just really cool. The ride there, we all kind of piled into this 15-passenger van, and it was a tight squeeze, not really any air conditioner. It was pretty hot, but it was still fun, having all the people with us. But so it was kind of a bumpy ride. They have cobblestone roads, So we were on there, and as you can see, when you're driving on the road, there's these big men with just random huge guns, like just standing around. And I was a little nervous, kind of scared, because there's these men just, I'm like, okay, what are they for? They just going to, open shoot it whenever they want to. Well, so we got to the mission house, and it was like really cool. It's like the structure of it was so different than houses around here. And I was kind of nervous, kind of going from like, I had no clue what we were going to be staying in. I was kind of a little nervous, going from like good luxuries we have here. And I don't know, it was just such a blessing to me to be able to go there and like see what service the mission house does for the Guatemalan people. Like Danny, he like brings in kids or lets them come, and they have like 3 or 4 computers that the kids from a local school in their project can come and do their homework. So they and I'm sure like that our church has helped like provide stuff for him, and like we're part of the reason they're able to do that stuff. And so it's just cool. Like we got to see how how much the people love Danny, and just the little kids. Every time we all went out, they all were like just attacking Danny. Danny, we love you, but in Spanish, not in English. And so, I mean, I think that's what they were saying at least. I don't really know, but I was trying. And we just got like to build such good relationships with all the staff members there. And even though we couldn't speak their language, it was so cool for us like to show like the universal language of like smile and love. You can tell an emotion. I don't know, I think it was kind of fun for us to try to have to figure out like what they were saying and what we were saying. Just it was funny. They were laughing at us because we were like, "Te amo, what?" And they were just laughing at us. And I don't know, I just thought that the Illinois girls, they were so good. Like one of the girls named Emily. They were Emily and Haley, and they're both from Illinois. And Haley, yeah, they're sisters. And Haley goes to Missouri State, I think, college. Missouri. Yeah, Missouri. And Emily goes to Iowa State. And it was just really cool. Emily's been there before, and she's coming back in July to intern there for a whole month. And just the love that they showed us and everything. It was just really cool to build relationships with them, and that's like a relationship like I'm never going to forget. I'm always going to remember them and the time we spent together. And I was just really thankful to get to go. So thank y'all for just providing for us, because I think this was really a blessing for me, and it showed me a lot like about how humble I should be. It was just so awesome. Like thank y'all for letting us go. And I'm going to give it to Casey. So Amy.
Okay, on the first thing that Danny did is he took us on a walking tour of San Pedro, and it's a mountainous area. It's at the foot of some volcanoes and some mountain area, and so you were usually either going uphill or downhill, whether you wanted to or not. It was just part of the way it was. The roads were cobblestone, and when I say cobblestone, I don't mean like lovely university campus where you walk on cobblestone. It was rocks, and it was very uneven. Very hard to walk on. You had to have something like tennis shoes or something to be safe as you walk, something that, a shoe that was attached to your foot kind of thing so you didn't twist your ankle. Those were the kind of roads near the mission house and in more of the town area. But as you got up toward the people's homes, it was dirt. And dirt everywhere. Dirt in their houses, dirt on the little street, the little road near their houses. And sometimes you would see rocks or even boulders on the side of the road that you would have to drive around, or more toward the middle. Holly joked about one of the boulders that we could have had the reenactment of Sermon on the Mount on this boulder, because it was just right there by their houses. It would have been perfect. On our tour, we saw many dogs, many dogs. And I was actually tired of seeing dogs, and I even like dogs, but I was tired of that. They were everywhere, laying in the road, and just roaming around everywhere. They were pretty scrawny looking, pitiful looking dogs. Some even attended Bible school with us. They listened to stories about Jesus. We saw a skinny horse that someone affectionately named Bony Pony. And it was tied up in this, I guess what you would call a field, but it was more like wild brush kind of thing. At one of the houses where the men worked, and on our tour, we went there the first day to meet them. They had 2 cats and a rooster and I think 3 dogs. Oh, and a chicken. Okay. And one of them looked very vicious and would have liked to have chewed your leg off if it could have. And the cat and the rooster were both tied up. And of course, the cat that was tied up was very sickly looking. And can you guess who was the one who would go pet the sickly cat? Any guesses? Holly. And we were told, don't pet the animals. Of course, she didn't get that memo ahead of time, I don't think. But she didn't get sick from it. Okay. So the people we met were very friendly. They were very open and warm. You could tell that Danny had a good relationship with these people for them to invite us into their homes the first time they laid eyes on us. And there was 15 of us, counting Danny and the 2 girls from Illinois in our group. And we stopped in at one of the houses, and they insisted that we all come in, and we prayed in their home right there. We hadn't been there an hour. And they wanted us to pray for, I believe the father in that home was ill, and the teenage boys, I think, were off not living the way the mom thought was good or according to God's word, and she wanted to pray for them. Just very open and unpretentious, and they didn't have much, but they were willing to share what they had. As we continued our tour, children would come running up, and like Emily was talking about, going, Denis, Denis, and you could tell they loved him, and they would jump on him, and he would kind of wrestle with them or sling them around, and just he can tell he's built a good relationship with those people and with that community. Some of the adults came out of their houses as well. One mother came up to Danny, and you could tell they were talking about something serious, and he goes in her home, and come to find out there was a little girl who was very ill and had a virus of some kind. And he sent 2 of his staff members, I think it was Jonathan and Carlos, I'm not sure, Jonathan and Manuel, one of them, to go back and get some Tylenol and the thermometer back at the mission house. So they hop on a little motorcycle and go back and get that. And they report back to Danny, her fever was 104.7. And as a parent, any parent can associate with that. You panic when the fever gets high, and I think how easy it is for me to go to my cabinet and take out Tylenol or Advil and give it to my child. How easy it is for me to put cold compresses on my child when they have fever. And I don't know if sometimes they have water and sometimes they don't have water. Something as simple as a cool cloth is like a luxury at that point when you need it so badly for your child. The next day, she did join in Bible school with us, so she was better. She wasn't totally well, but she came anyway, and she participated the rest of the week. It became very obvious that Danny is a lifeline for these people like that. That's who they went to when they needed the medication for the little girl and that kind of thing. Also, as we walked around the neighborhood, most of the homes are made of tin and things like that you saw, although there were some nicer. We saw this one beautifully colored, it kind of looked like condos in a row almost. And Danny told us that he said that they stood empty because it was some kind of political, I'd say statement for a better word, but that look what we've built, look how we've helped these people, and we put this many people to work, but nobody was getting the benefit from the home. And he said it was very corrupt there. There were some government homes that were built that were like block rectangular buildings, and we were impressed with those. And he said, yeah, but they don't give them to the people who need them. They give them to somebody who they know, or it's a friend of a friend or whatever, and they usually end up renting them out or something to make money. It's not that they really need a home. So he gets very aggravated with the corruption of the people who say they're helping, but they're really not. So that was our first glimpse of San Pedro, and like I said, everybody was very, very friendly, and we were kind of in a culture shock at first because he told us we'd be teaching in dirt, and we really were teaching in dirt. I mean, you saw some of the pictures. So Casey's going to tell you about the staff and the special group of people he has working with him, with Danny.
We had maybe 7 people helping. Jonathan, Lily, Andreas, Glendy, Manuel, Carlos, Victoria, and Andrea. Glendy was one of the people we built the house for, and her family. Their father had left them. He took their house and take their house. And he left the grandmother, the mom, Glendy, how many other people? Like a lot of kids. And we had to, yeah. Next person. Jonathan was one of our translators. He helped work on the houses with us. He helped at VBS too. And he was like, before Danny came, he was like previously a Christian. And he was very open forth with his Christianity. And he was hilarious. Just all the time, hilarious. His mom volunteered to help in the mission house. Like, she didn't get money or anything. She just wanted to just help because she could. And another one of our translators was Carlos. He goes and buys food for the feeding centers like every week in Antigua, and he helps with the Bible stories. He actually travels up the mountain where one of the feeding centers are every day or so to teach the kids, and comes all the way back down all the time. I couldn't see how we did it, but he helped with the construction too. And yeah, Victoria was our third translator, and she was real nice all the time. She was quiet too, but you know, her and Danny, I guess, he kind of picked at her, just like, because he's like one of those people that they like all the time. Anyway, she was Catholic, like her family was Catholic and everything, but she had converted to Christianity, and she didn't tell her family because that's, I guess you'd be ashamed of that. And she helped at the feeding centers too. I guess about the same as Carlos did. Taught the Bible study, and yeah, she did tell her family. She's getting baptized this month. And yeah. Andrea, I didn't really get to meet her all that much. She didn't speak English. She was another one of the volunteers. Yeah, I don't know her age or that much. Well, Lily helped in the kitchen. She the one related to? No. She goes to church with, she was one of the people who would like come to church with Danny. She cooked in the kitchens too, yeah. And the feeding centers. Then Andreas, he would tutor the kids at the mission house, and he would help at the feeding centers too. And I guess he kind of was attempting to speak the English while we were there. It was funny. Manuel, he was one of the people who helped at the construction, and he didn't speak English. He was on the praise and worship team at the church, and he was, yeah. Danny was, they met, he was the first person Danny met. No, Danny was the first person he met. Well, they were, when he had first come to Guatemala, then he was kind of quiet at the mission house. I didn't, like, to us, because, you know, we couldn't speak Spanish. But he would get into it when we were at church a lot. It was funny, but it was inspiring. I guess I'm done. Katie, it's your turn.
Okay, so we were doing. First of all, I would like to thank the church for letting us go and supporting us on this great experience that we will never forget. And as you know, the women did VBS, and I'd like to say that Debbie, Holly, and Amy did a great job planning VBS, and we all did good helping all that. And the first thing we did was beginning of the VBS, like when everybody was getting there, we had these, you saw the books in there that Debbie mentioned. They loved them, and they had like Spanish and English translations so that we both could understand them. And so, yeah, and then we sang some Spanish songs, and we didn't really know the words to them, but we just went along with it. And after that, we did the Bible lesson, and it was great. We kind of did the whole Bible in 3 days. So, and then we after the Bible lesson, we did some really cool crafts. Y'all heard and saw about it, and they really loved the crafts. They were pretty good at it too. And then we did some cool games, and Debbie had brought this huge beach ball first day, and the kids loved it. I think it was in one of the pictures. So, and they loved it, and they loved the games, and we had brought some inflatable balls, and they loved them. And we felt like the kids really listened to us, or them, because they did a great job. They listened. And it's like, even though we had a translator, they understood us because we were doing the lesson to them, not the translator. And the kids were amazing. I mean, the kids were great. They were brilliant, and they were really smart. Because some of them could, they wanted us to, read to them in English. They were trying to learn English when we were teaching them, or we were reading to them. And they were very loving and caring and generous to us. And even though we didn't know them, and they didn't know us, if you just gave them a smile, they would just light up. And it was amazing. Oh, yeah. The parents were, they didn't know who we were, but they were sending their kids out to VBS. And they would just, they would peek out their heads, and they'd be like, what's going on? And so some of them would come out, and they would just listen to us or to them do the Bible lesson, and they'd be with their kids and just listening and, absorbing it all in. And I hope we have more people next time we go, because, this is a great group for us to go, and we had a great time. I hope we have more people, and I can't wait to go back to see the kids again. I think we all can't wait to go back next time. Oh, there were some kids there, and they were braiding my hair a lot. At one time, I think it was the second time we did VBS, there were 4 girls braiding my hair at once. And Debbie saw it, and she was like, "Are you okay, Katie?" And I was like, "Hardly, but yes." So yeah, and they were great, and we did the games, like I said, and they loved the games, and they just had a blast with us. And so, yeah, I guess I'm done. So.
Okay, we had like the big beach balls, and like there was a bunch of barbed wire around, so like of course the beach balls kind of popped a little bit, but like it was funny because the kids would go in their house and get like little pieces of tape and stuff to like patch over the holes. So they were like, here, and we would have to blow it back up, and it was just fun to see them like going and like trying to get what they had, just so the whole neighborhood or could play with the balls still. It was pretty cool. It was fun.
Oh yeah, that was cool. I forgot about that. Thank you, Emily.
Okay, the most challenging part of the VBS, besides the volcanic ash and the lack of tables and chairs and the fact that we were out in the sun in the middle of the road, besides all that, and the dogs, I guess was the language barrier, but as they've mentioned already, hugs and smiles are universal, and that's mostly what they wanted from us. I mean, that's what they wanted most, and they got lots of it, so that was fun. But Danny would have us get there early. We would just show up in the road, and then the kids would just start showing up. And so Katie and Debbie both mentioned, the bilingual storybooks that Vera had found were just a huge success, and we would just lay those out while we were waiting till it was time to start. And the older kids would get one and go off by themselves, and then some of the grown-ups would get them and look at them, and then the little people, they would get one and they would climb in our laps. And so we were struggling through our Spanish. We were trying to read it in Spanish, and I guess I was doing pretty good because one day this little kid looked up at this little person. He looked up at me and he opened his mouth, and this whole conversation came out in Spanish, and I'm just like, yep. I didn't have a clue. No clue. Was the good answer, yeah. But anyway, so those were just, we had to actually take them away and hide them for the Bible lesson because they just kept wanting to look at them. But I loved how the parents, the moms, and even a few dads would kind of get on the fringe of the Bible school, and they were listening, and they did want to do the crafts. The parents, the mamas did the crafts also, and that was just cool. But they were looking at the books and listening, and so that was pretty neat. Of course, as Katie said, we would say a few things in English, and then Carlos or Victoria, whoever, or Jonathan one day would translate it. So the story took twice as long because it got said twice, but it was good. Now, music time was very fun. It was all action songs, and they were all in Spanish, and so that was fun, and we were just kind of and then we'd hit the high notes. And except I picked out some Bible stories to teach because of the really fun songs that go with them, which is great if you're here and not so great if you're in a different country with a different language. And so Carlos, okay, I want y'all to get your bulletin, and I want you to see that Carlos is standing right in front of Andy and me, and he is still smiling even after what I put him through at Bible school. Now, he may be smiling because we're leaving, but he was a great sport. And what would happen is I would sing the song in Spanish, and so he would thank you. Whoa, I did not sing the song in Spanish. Thank you, Matt. I would sing it in English, and he would translate it and then teach it in Spanish. So it was fun. Fortunately, most of them were action songs, so just like we did for their songs, they did for our songs. They just kind of went along and did the actions. But we really wanted y'all to get a little taste of that. So this is the part of the presentation where it's audience participation, and we are going to do two of their songs. They had favorites, and one of them was about a frog. Sapo, say that. Sapo. Okay, you're going to say that 3 times in a minute. And this was a boy frog, and he swam in the river, which is Rio. okay? And he was green, Verde. And he was cold, Frio. And he had a pretty wife, Sapa, which is, I guess, girl frog, since Sapo is boy frog. I'm picking up so much Spanish, y'all should be so impressed. And she talked and talked and talked, canto, and about her new amigo, and his name is, can you guess? Jesus. So that's the frog song, and in just a minute we're going to do it. And then the other song that we really loved, well, they did I'm in the Lord's Army. We knew that it was our I'm in the Lord's Army because we recognized the tune and the motions. And then they also did Inside, Outside, Up, Right Down, Right Happy all the time, which we all know that one also. And then they had a version of Jesus Loves Me, which was pretty cool. I have a friend who loves me. Yeah. There you go. His name's Jesus. But anyway, okay, so we're going to sing those songs. So, y'all stand up. Okay, here's your cheating part. Let me get back up here. Actually, Valerie is going to lead the song because she actually learned all the words. I only learned the one you said over and over again, and I'm going to tell those to you, and the rest of it you just kind of hum along, okay? So here we go. Rio, Rio, something, 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 Verde, 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 something, 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 Frio, 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 something, 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 Sapo, Sapo, Sop, something, 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 Canto, 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 something, something, Amigo, 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 Jesus. So I really just did the something, something, something all week, but Valerie, being I'm retired teacher, she's still teaching, so she felt that need to learn all the words. So she is going to lead you in this song, and I'm going to do like I did last week or week before. I'm going to go something, something, something. So you just got that one word. It's fun, and it's got parts, and I am so impressed that my boys are standing up to participate because I'm just going to say for them, they did not want to do this, but I appreciate that they're standing up.
I have a friend who loves me, who loves me, who loves me. I have a friend who loves me. His name is Jesus. He loves me, he loves me, his name is Jesus. He loves me, he loves me, his name is Jesus. And then the second verse says, you have a friend who loves you. His name is Jesus. And it repeats the same thing again.
This is what I learned. Mayama, he loves me. Tayama, he loves you. Okay, so that was Bible school was fun. It really was. It was fun. I mean, I don't think I'll ever look at Bible school in air conditioning sanctuaries again. But there you go. Okay. We had opportunities to present the Bibles to different families, and the Bible is a real treasure there. I mean, it's just a treasure because everybody doesn't have one. And even sometimes the grown-ups can't read, but their kids can read, and they'll have their kids read them to them. I mean, it was just great. But Timothy and Matthew and I were able to make a home visit to Enrique, which is one of our sponsor students, and his family, which was pretty cool. Now, guys, when we say we make a home visit, there's no way to describe it, but their home is actually a fenced-in area of dirt, and then there's maybe, well, with these, the ones they built now have 3 rooms, but a lot of times it's just one piece of a shed that you wouldn't put your tractor in, that they all pile in to sleep. They cook outside, but their home is outside. I mean, they have shelter for maybe when it's pouring down rain or maybe when they're sleeping. So we were invited into their fenced-in area of dirt, okay? And it was a very special opportunity. And when we presented a Bible to her, there was this look of disbelief that came across her face, and she told us, through the translator, that she had been praying and asking God for a Bible. And you know, we just couldn't wait to get home and tell Doug that those Bibles were, it's just hard to describe. But anyway, okay, I'm squeezing in one little thing that wasn't on my list, and I'll talk fast. The trip was a wonderful experience, and we all want to go back. But the truth I hope each of us and all of you understand is that the mission field is wherever you are. We are missionaries and ambassadors of the gospel, and there are needs all around us. My prayers are with Danny, Kim, and all they are doing in Guatemala, but also for us to have eyes and hearts to see the needs here in our own community. Thank you again for giving us the opportunity to go, and may we all be missionaries every day wherever we are.
I'm going to talk about the 2 feeding centers that Danny that he runs. He has the mission house, which is where we stayed, that he talked about that. Emily talked about. And he also has 2 feeding centers. And one of them is very close to the mission house. And I really enjoyed the feeding centers because it was the guys' opportunity to interact with the kids who, like they were saying, were just amazing. You know, Danny was telling us they'll see you, and obviously they'll see, you know, your skin color, and they'll know that you're associated with me. So they'll feel safe, and you can embrace them and hug them, and they're just going to love on you. And that was really the only opportunity we had to meet the kids and to love on them and to feel their love for us. And it was awesome just to play with them. And y'all saw a bunch of pictures. They loved to get like Tim's hat and sunglasses. And everybody else's, anything we had on us that we had brought, they wanted to have it and wear it. And even though we couldn't understand what they were saying, and they kept asking us questions, and we'd be like, no say, we don't know. But it was a lot of fun. You know, Danny, the people that work for him, they cook for these mission houses every day just to provide food for, you know, kids who can't get it anywhere else, you know, otherwise. But his other mission house it's literally on top of a mountain. And Tim will tell you later about how we had to carry, you know, our materials for construction, you know, roughly 100 yards up a small incline.
It's about a quarter mile.
But they had to carry every single building material up a mountain by hand to build this feeding center that they built. And he said it took them 6 months just to get the stuff up there. I mean, he said they would carry stuff all day and work all day and be so worn out that they would have to take 2 days off because, I mean, that's all they did. They just carried stuff up a mountain. I'm talking about like big old heavy bags of concrete and sand and lumber. And I mean, I can't even imagine, what that would have taken. But something like that, 14 trips in a day. And I mean, we had to carry some concrete and some sand, and that was a struggle. We had to carry it like the sand like 20 yards. Yeah, I mean, yeah, we had to take turns carrying the food. I mean, they had to carry material, and they had to carry food up there every day to cook, or maybe every Monday. I can't remember. Every Monday. But so that was, I mean, it was incredible just to think about the fact that that they did that. I mean, I'm sure when God asked Danny he said, hey, look, I need a mission house. I mean, I need a feeding center up on this mountain. I mean, he was probably like, are you sure? I mean, are you sure you don't mean at the foot of the mountain? Or, But so that was amazing. And just to know that through their efforts, how many people that they're feeding that wouldn't get food otherwise was just, it was incredible to experience and to see. And I also wanted to talk about on the way down from the mountain, we went and ate up on the mountain one day at that feeding center to interact with the people and the kids up there. And on the way down, we stopped by a house that he told us 2 of his team members, I think it was Carlos and it was the cook at the feeding center that went down to this house. This girl had been having these dreams, and in her dreams she had been seeing wolves and black, dark figures in her dreams, and she was terrified, and she couldn't sleep because of it. She kept waking up from these dreams, and Danny had gotten the Aurora from the feeding center, and did Carlos go with her? And Carlos had already prayed over this girl, and since then, the dreams had stopped since they had prayed with her. But we stopped by, and we all, put hands on the family, and also they invited us into their house, and we put hands on the family or somewhere on the house, and we prayed over them. And it was awesome to be a part of something like that, just because of the faith that they had. That they knew there was no one else who could do it but God, and they had faith that He would do it. And to be a part of that, and to pray for this family for their protection, was an amazing experience. And so, I'm done.
A little bit more about the feeding centers. Every day, the one down by the mission house, they feed kids 5 days a week at lunch, and they actually do it in 2 shifts because they have school at 2 different times. And one of the staff members presents a Bible story lesson that Kim, Danny's wife, writes. And Danny was given a budget to feed about 50 kids a day at that feeding center that they just opened this year. And he said that, so he had to be very selective. He had to pick kids that he knew were going entire days or 2 without meals. And he ended up picking 60 kids instead of 50. But he said that everything that they've needed, that God has provided for them. And then the one up the hill feeds about 50 kids as well. And the staff is on a rotation. They go to different feeding centers every day, but they share the lesson that that Kim gives for them to do. And they always have a Bible verse that they have for the whole week too.
One of the things too about the construction, there's a lot easier ways to do what he does, but Danny is very cognizant of the separation that it would put between him and those people, and he doesn't want to come in appearing like the rich American, and it would also make them a target, and so he is so very, God's given him great wisdom about that, about how to reach these people and how to have a heart for them. And it's not always the easiest way. And that was the thing I had a hard time getting my head wrapped around, because I'd look at something and say, oh, this is a problem. You need, you need a wheelbarrow, you need a four-wheeler, you need something, you need some way to do this a lot easier. And that was not the point that God was trying to get through to me. That it's not always the easiest way that's the right way, that you have to be able that Danny has such discernment of the Spirit and how to reach those people that was one of the big gifts that I got out of this whole thing. That it's and oh, by the way, too, our church, we gave them a wheelbarrow. We donated them a wheelbarrow before we left, so it would be a bit easier.
I'm going to talk about the construction, and before I start, just know it's not going to be in any way organized. Might jump around. Yes, a lot like the construction, so I guess y'all get more insight into it than I imagined. Anyways, construction. First of all, we had to carry all the materials in a truck, one truck, and all the people in a truck, and all the women for Bible school in the same truck. That was fun. We loaded it up full of lumber, 2 step ladders, a generator, a big, huge, heavy generator. What else was on the first day? All the shovels, all the picks, the whole big bag of tools, assorted tools, again, unorganized, and bags of sand. That came later. Well, for the first trip, we were all piled on that truck. Me and Pat were sitting on a ladder that was sitting up above the cab. It was, yeah, it was. So we get all the materials, and we gotta take them out of the truck so the girls can get on and go. And we had to keep somebody down to watch them so nobody would steal it, while people made trips. So we rotated in and out. And so we got the materials up there. We got a good steady pace going. We got it up there, and then, all notions of efficiency got shattered after we got all the material up there. We wanted to. We were wanting to set records. We told Danny, Danny, I don't know how long it's taking these people to build houses, but we're gonna beat them. We're gonna beat them bad. And that was the mindset I'd gone in there with, really. And so I pull up, I come up there. I'm like, all right, where's the lift at? Where's the crane? We got work to do. So we get out there and we start measuring and pulling lines off a house. And we're just, what is that house? It's like 4 meters. It might be 4 meters wide by 6 meters. And nobody else is there but our group. There's not Carlos and Manuel and Jonathan and Danny. Oh, yeah, Manuel's there. Yeah, 1, he didn't know what was happening, and 2, he couldn't tell us. So, we were assuming that we were just going to add on to this house. It's just going to be double. So we start pulling lines, and Pat's doing the 3, 4, 5 triangle that Manuel's never seen before. And what is it, 20 minutes? We're getting the lines laid out, and we're putting pencils and sticks in the dirt. And Danny gets there, and is it Danny or, yeah. He's like, that's not what we're doing. Apparently we were doing a 6 by 6, like 20 foot by 20 foot house, about 400 square foot roughly. And if you would, yeah, I wasn't in on that part. Anyways, if you were up there by that house in that yard, fenced in with all the metal and all the barbed wire, and you're up there with all the tools, you're ready to go, and you hear 6 by 6, and you're looking around, and you're like, Danny, there's not enough room for 6 by 6. It's impossible. Because they had a whole bunch of stuff piled up. So we ended up We had to knock some of the bank out and move it as close as we can. I mean, they really wanted it as close to this fence as you could get it, so you could get a hand in there and shoot the screw. And we had to move like a mattress frame and tables. We had, that all their belongings they had kind of piled up. So that was first off. And then that was one of the houses. We're building a brand new house. That was the brand new one. And another house we were taking down and moving. It was a house that Danny and them had built, and it needed to be moved because the landlord just kind of switched gears on them, told them that they could stay, and then changed his mind. And I guess it's real finicky like that. If you have the privilege to own land, you can do that. But we're taking this house down and thinking it's going to go one way. Danny says, look, it was me, Casey, and Drew taking the house down. And Danny says, I want those sheets to go back on those boards and hit all the same holes. I want it to stand exactly like it stood over here. And we took it to heart. So we were taking stuff down, and it was going to rotate 90 degrees too. So we had to label all the sheets, which way they went, because it was just boards and sheet metal. That's all the house was made of, and maybe a wire running in for a light if you're lucky. But so I'm just looking at the volcanoes behind me like this. I know that's south, so I got to write south wall 1. Drew's helping, Casey's helping, and we're all, but we're not writing it like it is. We're writing it like it's going to get turned. So, south. What is this? I don't know. What would that be? I'm not doing it anymore. Yeah, it'd be the east wall. So we get everything labeled, and Pat and them are running and gunning, I guess. No, they're digging and hitting rocks, putting posts in, and me and Drew are cranking our brains, and Casey, we're handing sheets down to Casey, trying to stack them up in some kind of organized way without any room. And we go to put the posts down for the second house, which are the old posts from the first house. We have to yeah. It looked like it took about 3 seconds. It's just the motions it didn't. It took a long time. That was the nature of what had to happen. Just loosen it up. Anyways, we had it all labeled, all stacked up, and there was a lime tree right where one of the rooms was supposed to be. And nobody in the know had the foresight to say, hey, 6 meters out, you're gonna hit a lime tree. No, I don't know if that's gonna be a problem or not. Well, it was. And supposedly somebody is supposed to have leveled off the ground for us. That didn't happen either. All right, so anyways, all the directions we wrote down, for where the sheets were and the posts were and the rafters were 90 degrees off. Took a whole day. But we did set a record. 2 houses in 4 days was the previous record. But we built a new house, took an old house down, and put it back up 3 days. And we had a blast. It was really, really fun. It's under a porch lime tree.
All right, so I'm gonna talk about Wednesday night. But about that, Danny gave us Wednesday. He said if we were gonna be able to finish it in time, then we were going to be able to experience Wednesday night. And he really wanted us to, so I think we took that into heart, and we put it in overdrive and guns a-blazing and started building those houses. And 'cause we really wanted to experience Wednesday night. We didn't want to miss out because we were going to miss Sunday. So Wednesday night was pretty exciting. We went in and kind of ate, and everybody got ready. We walking at night, which in Guatemala, walking at night is not a good thing, especially for us missionary white people. And yeah, so we're walking, and we get to Wednesday night, and it's a little brick building, very nice. For them, it was very nice. The band was up there. And Manuel was one of the singers, so that was great to see one of our staff members and volunteer people up there, expressing his love for God. And we were already told ahead that all the singing was going to be in Spanish, all the preaching was going to be in Spanish. So we got into worship time thinking we were just going to kind of stand there and just kind of hum the tune and listen. But it ended up, all the songs that they were singing in Spanish, we knew them. And so I think it was a great experience for everybody that we were able to sing our songs and their songs in 2 different languages. But the thing I got was music is not just one language. Music is universal. Doesn't matter what it is. You can sing it your own way. You can do it your own way. Yeah, you worship God. It doesn't matter what it is. As long as you're worshiping God, that is the main thing. It doesn't matter if it's this song or that song. As long as it's worshiping and you're doing it for God, it shouldn't matter what you're doing. So it was great for us. I could hear, you could always tell who was singing in English because it was all of us singing in English and all of them were singing in Spanish. It was a great time. And then the pastor came up, and the pastor was thanking us for all that we've been doing. And then the preaching started, and he wanted a translator because he really wanted us to hear his message, which I thought was a great way for him to, just kind of share his love to us, that he didn't want to just leave us hanging and just sit there. He really wanted to preach to everybody that was there. So I thought that was a great experience. I'm pretty sure everybody else, I can speak for all of us, that Wednesday night was probably the best night, or the best day that we had. Just can't wait to go back, experiencing everything. And now since what we've been doing, and for all the support, next time when we can go back, we can just experience a lot more, and we can set new records. We can break all the records. So I just want to thank you all for supporting us and praying for us, and thank you.
I'm going to be real brief because I know we're about to run long. One thing that really impressed me was the 2 houses that we did. One was for one of the staff members' family, Glendy, and another one was for one of the children that is one of the sponsored kids, Enrique. It was his family. And one thing that Danny made a point of was on Thursday morning we went over there, and he dedicated both of the houses. And he makes sure that they understand that it's not from him, that it's not from someplace else, but it's from God. It is a gift of God. And he is very cognizant of making sure that it's perfectly clear to them that exactly where these gifts come from and who they need to be thankful for. And he used a verse out of 2 Samuel 7, 27 through 29. It says, Lord Almighty, God of Israel, you have revealed this to your servant, saying, I will build a house for you. So your servant has found courage to pray for this prayer to you. Sovereign Lord, you are God. Your covenant is trustworthy, and you have promised these good things for your servant. Now be pleased to bless the house of your servant, that it may continue forever in your sight. For you, Sovereign Lord, have spoken. with your blessing, the house of your servant will be blessed forever. And one thing too is we made a gift of the Bibles to the folks at these houses so that they would have a good foundation to house. He made sure that they understood that when it was during rainy weather that they would be blocked from the rain. When it was hot, they'd have a cool place to go, and that they would always have this shelter, and the shelter could be equated to the gift of God and how His protection always covers them. So, and I really think Danny and his family are just absolutely amazing. I felt very privileged to be able to spend the time with them, and was very thankful to him for the time that he took with us. Because it's a sacrifice for them to be able to, to have all of us down there. It takes a lot out of their time, out of the normal stuff that they have, because they have, school and everything else going on. And he really welcomed us with open arms and really made us feel very blessed to be able to be there. So, thank y'all for the opportunity to go.
Again, I know we're pressing for time, so I'm going to try to squeeze this in together. My part of this is kind of give you a culture look at Guatemala, and it's for a lot of us, we were told what to expect, but if you've never been to a third world country before, we got culture shock right off the bat. At least I did. Coming out of the airport, you see people selling stuff, and you can buy it if you want to or whatever. And then we get on this van to go to where we're going, come out of Guatemala City, where it's the driving over there is very bad. There's, to say the least, there's no stop signs hardly. There's no red lights, and people do not have the right of way. The cars do. So when you're riding up and down the road, everybody's honking at each other. Nobody's wanting to give right of way hardly. And you have motorcycles that ride in between the cars, going, no matter how fast you're going. And several times I thought we was going to get one with the window, the mirror on the side of the car. But it's very, very hectic driving. It kind of scared me. And plus, when you're doing that, going up into the mountains and circling around big curves and all, it can be kind of scary. And as we traveled on, we looked through Guatemala City, and you see a great presence of security guards, police, and military, and they're all armed with Uzis, shotguns, or whatever you want to say, and it's very out in the open. It's in every street, everywhere, every building. These people have to hire their own protections, any kind of major store to protect their store from whatever. All rooftops, no matter where we were in Guatemala City, Antigua, or where we were in San Pedro, had barbed wire across the top, had barbed wire around the telephone poles, or had glass. And every door was usually had a chain around it, or had a big dog behind it, or either had a big metal fence behind it, in front of it, trying to protect their property. It's people there, like I said, it's a third world country, so there's a lot of thievery going on there. As we got on into Antigua, as you probably heard people say, the roads are changed from cement to rock, and it's just unlevel rock. And Antigua and San Pedro both are made out of the same type of rock, so it's very hard to travel on. But this Antigua and San Pedro are a historical park in this area because of the volcanoes, and they want to keep it that way. And talking about volcanoes, there was 4 volcanoes in our area. 3 of them are not active, and one of them was active. And you could see the smoke coming out of it, and had some lava every once in a while that came down, they said, but we didn't get close enough to see any of that, but they were all around us. Antigua was a shopping center. It was one of the major hubs in that area. You could shop there, looked like a big flea market, the way I could describe it. You had people everywhere, and if you wanted to buy something, you just had to negotiate. If they said 5, you say 3, and you just keep going on until you agree on the price. And that's the way everything there is dealt with. Fruit, any kind of commodity they have is usually a bargain type thing. People in the area, I watched every morning. I went outside and sat on the front porch, and I liked to watch the people as they came by. Most of the time, the women would come by because in certain areas above us, which would be where the dirt road area was, they had no electricity or water. So you would see the women, and I mean women 75 years old, 80, however old they were to young, carrying on top of their heads their laundry. And the laundry was down in the middle of the city of San Pedro, was free water, where they could go and scrub their clothes on a cement trough that they had in there. And you'd scrub your clothes until they got clean, and you could wash them off with the water that was there. And then they'd have to put that basket back on top of their head, which was wet, and then balance it and walk way back up the mountain into the hills up there. So it was pretty challenging to see people like that walking around, because you don't see that around here. And we had one time when we were building the houses, they were talking about flattening the area over there, and I was doing it with a hoe, and there was a 70-something-year-old woman and a woman that just had a baby, an infant that was in a stroller, and it was wearing me out. I had to stop and rest and everything, but those people worked non-stop the whole time. The two women did for about 45 minutes, and I was wore out and took about 3 breaks, but they never stopped. They worked hard and put me to shame pretty quick. I could back to Antigua also. The Antigua is the main tourist area for that area, and you get to see the Maya ruins there. And from there, a lot of people come there to go hike the mountains and go see the Maya ruins, and they're in the area. Up until Danny was telling us, till 1993, they had a civil war in that area based with the Mayas and the government there. So there's a lot of stuff that hard feelings left with that. A lot of the area in Antigua and around our area was churches that were hit by the earthquakes, and they were still there. So some of the pictures you might see is a lot of the vacant, or not vacant, but old churches that were still there. Onto religion, you'd heard Timothy talking about the house where they'd seen the what was it, the wolf, dark wolf or whatever. Voodoo is still a big reality in that area. They have all kinds of different stuff that goes on there. Danny has to fight that and pray over the people that have that believe in that or don't believe in it, but they do have a thing for voodoo in that area there. And to wrap it up, because I know Valerie's up, we're late, one thing they do at the feeding center, the kids there don't get no food. Some of them are lucky to eat that one time in that feeding area. But Danny always makes them pray in a prayer to pray for all the young kids that don't get a meal, and he makes them pray that every prayer, and that's the way I like to end it.
So every night when we got back to back to the mission house and had our dinner and kind of got settled in, Danny would lead us in a devotion, and it wasn't so much a devotion as it was a processing time for us. And he always put an emphasis on that. And he's like, you're experiencing a lot of things here. God's going to be teaching you a lot of things here. It's important to take time for that and to share it with each other. And I think it was during those moments that we really connected the most, and with his mission team as well. We had spent all day long with these people that we knew a day or two, and by the end of the time we knew that they were family, and we've referred to them as that ever since we've come back, like our family over across the Gulf or whatever, our other family over there, our brothers and sisters there. So I wanted to kind of give you a glimpse of what his devotions were like, and some of the questions that he asked us. He started Sunday night by reading John 3:1-3. How great is the love the Father has lavished on us, that we should be called children of God. And that is what we are. The reason the world does not know us is that it did not know him. Dear friends, now we are children of God, and what we will be has not yet been made known. But we will know that when he appears, we shall be like him, for we shall see him as he is. Everyone who has this hope in him purifies himself just as he is pure. And I didn't exactly realize it that night or even throughout the week, but once I was going back over this, I kind of saw a pattern in the verses and the theme of what Danny was trying to convey to us, and then that's we are children of God. He has made us part of his family. He has included us in his inheritance. And he sits on the throne, and Jesus sits on the throne, and one day we will be there with him. And that was just kind of the theme that I saw this whole week, was that we are all family, and we are God's family, and then the ones that we met over there are just as much a part of that family as well. He kind of, Sunday night, he kind of told us God has been good to them. He's blessed their ministry. Anytime they have a very specific need and they pray over it, God always provides exactly what they need. The king sits on that throne. And then Monday night, once we had a full day's experience, he asked us the question, what are you most surprised by since you've been here? And a few people said, just how happy the people are with so little. Tim said when we were walking around Sunday when we first got there, there was a church going on and you could hear them worshiping and stuff in a different language. And he said, it sounds different and it looks different, but we worship the same God. And then Danny kind of ended the night by telling us that we were there, we were here just to plant seeds and to get God's work started. But once we leave, it still belongs to God. We might not be responsible for it anymore, but he still is, and he will water it, and he will tend it, and he will protect what it was that he called us to do there, because it belongs to him. And I was kind of reminded that night, and I think it's a C.S. Lewis quote where it says, it's good to be weary in the work of the Lord. And that was also a resounding theme as well. Tuesday night, he told a story about a man hunting moose in Alaska, and how he was so focused on the moose that when he got back to the hunting trailer, his friend said, "Man, didn't you see that ginormous bear following you all day?" And he had never seen it because he was so focused on the moose. And he read these two scriptures and linked them together with that story. This is Deuteronomy 13:4. "It is the Lord your God you must follow, and him you must revere. Keep his commands and obey him, serve him and hold fast to him." And he emphasized how we're supposed to, nose to the ground following God in everything that we do. But then he read 1 Peter 5:8. "Be self-controlled and alert. Your enemy, the devil, prowls around like a roaring lion, looking for someone to devour." And so he talked about how, while we are focused on God, that we still need to be conscious of the fact that Satan is trying to get us. And he said, the enemy's, looking for a weakness to devour, a lack of prayer, a lack of scripture in our lives, a lack of community. And he also said, Satan doesn't care anything about you when you're not doing anything for the Lord, when you aren't following the Lord. And then he ended that night by asking us to give him one word about where we saw Jesus that day. And he told us, even when we're back here at home, we should still see Jesus every day. And if we have our eyes open, we will. And we just have to remind ourselves to do that every day. And he also reminded us every night before we go to bed and every morning when we wake up to pray that God will give us the presence of Jesus so that other people will see that in us. He especially said that, when we were going out that day to work with the kids and to build the houses, because they spent time with the families of the houses that they were building as well. That those that were around us would see Jesus on our faces. And then Wednesday night we had church, which Drew talked about that. And we learned to say, God bless you, Dios le bendiga. Dios le bendiga. We got pretty good at saying that, I think. And then Thursday night was one of the most special nights, Drew. I think I have to argue with you about I think Thursday night might have been my favorite. He started by telling us very vivid detail the story of the woman who had been bleeding for years and years, and she just wanted to touch Jesus' robe, and how she was an outcast. Her family had kicked her out of her home because she was unclean, and she had probably spent all of her money trying to get well, and she just had absolutely nothing. And she just had this tiny ray of hope. And when she heard the name Jesus, that hope grew and grew until it was all that she could think about. And she didn't care that she was around these people that had shunned her whole life. She just shoved them out of the way, and all she could focus on was getting to Jesus' robe. And when she did and she fell down to her knees, Jesus turned around to her and said, "Daughter." And because of her faith, she was healed, and because of her faith, she's his daughter. Because of our faith, we have the hope of heaven with him. We are his sons and daughters. And if you have accepted Christ, that Jesus is always looking at you saying, son, saying, daughter. I love you. I desire all of you. And he told us every day to remind yourself, I am a daughter of God. I am a son of God, an heir to the throne. Once he kind of finished that little story, he asked us 3 more questions. He asked, what have you enjoyed most about your trip in Guatemala? And we went around and all shared that. What is one thing you will not miss about Guatemala? The thing I said was not being able to brush my teeth with the water that came out of the sink, because I just never felt like I could fully get them clean. And then I think Amy said the cobblestone roads, didn't you, and trying to walk on those? Or maybe somebody did. Yeah. And then the last thing he said was, what's something that you're going to take with you that kind of changed you and that you've learned? And for me, it was just how open and loving they were, and how they would give you a hug and a kiss on your cheek the first time they met you, and every time they saw you, and every time they were leaving you, and usually a few times in between. I'm not always one for hugs, but man, I think they might have changed that in me. Then he asked his team to go around and share something that they had with us. Manuel charged us with Colossians 3:23 and 24, which I think you also wrote on the bottom of the wheelbarrow. Yeah, that's true. They could have lied to us. But Colossians 3:23 and 24 says, whatever you do, work at it with all your heart, as working for the Lord, not for men, since you know that you will receive an inheritance from the Lord as a reward. It is the Lord Christ you are serving. So y'all weren't working for Manuel all week. All right, you were working. It didn't feel like it. Victoria, who was just precious, we all wanted to take her home with us, charged us to make disciples and then to come back and tell her about that. And then Andres, who didn't speak English, said, if you're tired at the end of the day because you've been working for the Lord, then that's good. But if you aren't tired, then what was the point? Which I put loosely translated here, because I think that's what he was saying. And then the greatest blessing of all, which is really difficult to try to describe to you, Danny had all of his staff members, even Glendy, who was 17 and very, very young and full of joy, laughed a lot, especially when we tried to teach her Farkle. They all went around and laid their hands on each of us and prayed for each of us in their own language. Sometimes I could kind of pick up what they were saying. Sometimes I would try to pray for them while they were praying for me, but I just couldn't, because I was so overwhelmed by their love and just their relationship with the Father and the new brother or sister that I had right here in front of me. And Danny was praying over us in English, so I did know what he was saying, and I was just boo-hooing by the time he got to me. And it was a very, very special evening, and it was an excellent conclusion to our whole week of just spending that time with that family that we met over there. So. Oh, okay, so we're going to pray if you'll stand. Brother Absher.
That's special. I'm so glad that 12 of our people were able to go and experience what they've experienced, and to see how excited and inspired they are. And I want to thank the Lord for that, and I want us to pray together. And our invitation song was, "Wherever He leads, I'll go." And as we pray, I want us to commit together to the Lord that in our little corner of the world, that we will be the hands and feet and the mouthpiece of our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. And where we see needs, let's be efficient in trying to meet those needs of people that are in our neighborhoods. And then when other opportunities avail themselves, you can go too as a representative of this church and our Lord, and have some of the inspiration that these people have shared with us today. By the way, let's give them, shall we? I'm convinced their lives will never be the same again. I can tell that from what they've shared. And as they've shared with me, I pray to the Lord my life will never be the same again. Shall we look to Him in prayer? Father, we're so thankful for the blessings that have been ours today. And to see our brothers and sisters in Christ so touched, and to see the fount of their lives opened up, the tears that flow and the words that have been shared. Almost, Lord, so burdened with what they've experienced that they can't even share some of the things. And Lord, we know that there have been eternal lessons learned. And we know, Father, that their lives are going to be more of commitment and work and labor for Jesus Christ. Father, how we praise You that they've had this opportunity. And how we praise You that people of this congregation have responded to help them go. Now, Lord, we pray for Danny Lopez. We pray for his dear wife and family and for all of his workers in every ministry that he started. Oh God, may it be an enduring ministry. And may the lives he's touching become spiritual leaders, able to speak the language of their people. And may this message go forward and sweep Guatemala through the work of this faithful servant. And God, we pray that You'll keep him safe and strong physically, his family and workers. God, may there be a hedge of protection about them. Bless all these little children. And Lord, when we hear of little children going to bed at night without food and without the necessary things that we take so for granted here, we just pray, God, that You will help us to be a help to him as he tries to meet that need. Now, Lord, speak to our hearts. We do have a mission field where we are. We have people to reach for Jesus Christ. And in a nation that's been blessed so bountifully, a nation, Lord, that at times has turned its back on You, help us to realize the tremendous ministry we have to teach our people, to help them, Lord, focus again upon the Lord. So, Father, we submit ourselves to You. And we do pray the prayer of this invitation Where you lead us, God, we will go. And whatever you have for us to do, we will do. So fill us afresh and anew with your Spirit. And help us, God, to labor, as one of the men there said, till we're weary. To give of our best. Because Jesus teaches us in Hebrews 12, we have not yet resisted unto blood, striving against sin. So help us, God, to be a living sacrifice. We pray in Jesus' name. Amen. God bless you. We do have a reminder that tonight is our special called business meeting, and we will have, Teresa, are you here? Do we have copies of the, where?
Rock corner.
Okay, do you have copies of the bylaws for people to take home with them? Yes, sir. Okay. She will be there. Be sure and pick up one. You can review. The changes are in yellow. Most of it is the same, but changes that you're being asked to vote upon tonight are in yellow. And it's a very important meeting, and we hope you'll be here for that meeting. And then don't forget the tea this next weekend for Hannah. And don't forget, as Sister Sellers goes this weekend, to share in the women of the Church of God here in Alabama. Pray for that. A week from next Sunday, 2 weeks from today, will be our Easter Sunday. We will have a sunrise service at 7 o'clock. And as soon as that's over, there will be sausage and biscuits and refreshment up in the Family Life Center or down in the fireplace room. We haven't decided yet, but we will have it one of the places, and then the 8 o'clock men's prayer service, and then the service itself. No evening worship service on Easter Sunday day. So support all of these ministries, and may the Lord bless you as you go. I'm going to ask the team if they will go out and be there to greet the people.